Thoughts and prayers. We hear it again and again after someone is shot or lost a loved one or after a disaster. Yes. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And I know that some folks need it. I really do. But when you are the one picking up the shell casings, when you are the one stepping over needles, when you are the one who can't afford both rent and medicine this month, thoughts and prayers start to feel pretty thin. Because nothing changes. The prophets of Israel would have had some words about that. And today we are hearing from one of those prophets. His name is Isaiah, speaking to people who knew what it feels like when the world is grinding you down to the ground. People who knew exile, displacement, exhaustion. People who cried out to God while everything fell apart around them. And God's response to Isaiah is not thoughts and prayers. God's response is, see, I am creating new heavens and a new earth. God's response is not, I'm thinking about it, or not, I'm praying about it. God's response is, see, I am creating new heavens and a new earth. The Israelites had been in exile in Babylon, and they had just come back from about 70 years in exile in Babylon. 70 years away from home. 70 years of being nobodies in somebody else's city. And they dream of home. They dream of returning home. They dream of it maybe every night they went to sleep. They were thinking about their home, Jerusalem, and the longing they had to return home. And finally, they are back home. But here's the gut punch. Coming home didn't fix anything. Maybe you don't know that feeling. When you think if you could just get back to how things were, how things used to be, everything would be okay. And when you get there, you realize that you can't go to work, you can't go back, your home isn't home anymore, or maybe it never was what you needed it to be. That's where they were. The temple was rubble, the economy was a joke. The same people who had power before before they were in exile had power again. And they were stepping on some of the same people who they had stepped on before. You'd build a house and someone would take it. You'd work your hands raw and someone else would profit. Kids were dying young, violence was everywhere, and the people were crying out, God, where are you? We thought you brought us home. We thought that things would be different. We prayed and everything would be okay, but now we are here and it is not. Does it sound familiar? Because I hear the same cry here. I hear the same cry when Robert tells me that he's been sober for 6 days and he's trying. God, he's trying. And he says, I am trying so hard, but the liquor store is right there on the road on my way home. And I pass by the liquor store 4 times a day. I hear it when Angela shows me the eviction notice she received. And even though she's working 2 jobs, she's unable to pay her bills. God, we are praying. And we are here. Where are you? And into that cry, God speaks. But God doesn't give them or us empty reassurances. God doesn't say, there, I'm thinking about you. There, I'm praying for you. Just pray a little harder. God says something that should make us come awakened. He I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. The word create used in the scripture is bara, and in Hebrew, that's the same word that is used in Genesis 1, where God spoke everything into existence. God isn't talking about a makeover. God isn't talking about a reform or improvement. God is talking about something completely new. He's talking about creation, doing something so radically new that the old patterns, the old hurts, the old systems that keep grinding people down won't even be remembered. And then God gets specific, painfully, beautifully specific. He says, no more babies dying, no more young people cut down before they've had a chance to live, no more parents burying their kids, no more funeral for teenagers, no more people building and others taking, no more working yourself to the bone while someone else gets rich, no more being pushed out of the neighborhood you built, no more watching your labor profit everyone but you. No more crying about nobody listening. In fact, God says, before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. He says that even the wolf and the lamb will eat together. Ancient enemies, predators and prey, sitting down at the same table. This isn't some vague spiritual comfort. This is God's concrete vision for a world that is transformed. A world where kids can walk to school safely, where you can work one job and still make rent, where addiction doesn't have to be a death sentence, where violence isn't just how things are, where the people who've been invisible suddenly matter. But here's what we need to understand. Yes, Elizabeth, we need to understand. This vision isn't just something God does to us or for us while we sit in the pews and wait for heaven. God invites us to partner with God. God's creative work happens through us, with us, as we participate in bringing this new reality into being. One choice at a time, one action at a time, one sacred breath at a time. Because transformation, real transformation, doesn't happen through passive thoughts and prayers. It happens when God's disruptive grace breaks into our lives and changes how we live, how we move, and how we see each other. Think about that image Isaiah gives us. The wolf and the lamb feeding together. Imagine being that wolf, sensing for the first time that maybe you don't have to tear the lamb apart in order to survive. Everything in your wiring, everything you've learned on these streets screams against you. Your whole life you've been taught it's eat or be eaten. You've seen what happens to the weak. You've learned to strike first, stay hard, trust nobody. Or imagine being the lamb. Imagine feeling that strange, dangerous urge to sit down with the wolf. Not to run, not to hide, but to break bread together with the wolf. Every survival instinct, every trauma, every time you've been hurt tells you that this is suicide. And yet in God's new creation, even these ancient patterns can be broken. Even these enemies can become neighbors. Even predators and prey can eat together. Friends, we are all patterned people. We are patterned by our trauma. The Lord knows this neighborhood has shrunk. We are patterned by what we had to do to survive. We are patterned by fear, by disappointment, by the times we reached out and got burned, by the times we hoped and got crushed. And when we are anxious or afraid or just bone tired, we react from those patterns instead of reacting from freedom. You see a cop car, and what happens? Your body tenses. Pattern. You get a little money and you spend it fast because if you spend it fast before something takes it, it's a pattern. Someone offers help and you don't trust it. Pattern. You feel that pulling toward the bottle or the needle, the whole escape, that's a pattern. Someone disrespects you and you know exactly how to respond. Pattern. You see someone from the block and you look away or you stare them down. It's a pattern. Studies tells us that most of our thoughts are just the same loops running over and over and over again. Fear and anxiety shape our responses without us even realizing it. They dictate how we respond to situations. But here's the gospel truth. God specializes in breaking patterns. It doesn't matter what pattern we have developed because of our life situations, that God has the power and the authority to break those patterns in our lives. God specializes in creating new possibilities where we only see dead ends. God specializes in transforming worlds and lands. God specializes in making a way when we think there is no way. And God invites us to notice these patterns, in ourselves, to catch ourselves in the moments before we react and to choose differently, to practice a new way of being, a new way of operating, a new way of living. So, what does it actually look like to participate in God's new creation right here in this neighborhood? It means when another shooting happens, we don't just light candles and go home. We show up at the community meeting. We walk our streets at night so our young people know that they're not alone. And we create real alternatives, real futures, real hope for kids who've been told that they don't matter. It means when we see our neighbors sleeping in the doorways, we don't just shake our heads and say, here they go again. We stop and we ask their names. We advocate for shelters to remain open so that these, our unhoused neighbors and friends can find somewhere to sleep at night. We push back when city officials want to clean up our blocks and push people out, helping them to recognize that these are individuals who have worth, who were created uniquely by God and loved by God. It means that when someone is struggling with addiction, we don't just say, get clean and walk away, but we walk with them, we journey with them, and we sit with them in their relapses. We celebrate their 6 days, we celebrate their 6 months, we celebrate their 6 weeks, we celebrate their celebration, and we remember that healing isn't linear and grace isn't conditional. That they may be okay for a while and they may relapse, but they know that they can come to us, they can turn to us in their point of weakness and what they consider to be a failure. It means that we should be there for them and they know that we care deeply about them. It means that when we see them struggling, that they know that they have a support system through us. So, as we think about this reading, and as we think about the invitation that God offers to break the patterns, break the cycles that we have in our lives, and to experience something new. The question is, what patterns do you have in your life? What patterns do we have in our lives that we need to pay attention to? The patterns that hold us back and hold us down. The patterns that prevent us from living our lives in all its fullness. Or patterns that hold us in place and prevent us from living full lives. What are those patterns? Name those patterns. Own those patterns. And surrender those patterns to Jesus Christ. Ask God for the strength. Ask God for the courage to walk away, to turn away, and to hand over those patterns so that you can live in the freedom that Christ offers for all his people. So here's what I'm asking you today. I'm asking you to reflect deeply on the patterns that you have that are not healthy or helpful, that are a hindrance to you and your walk with Christ, that are a hindrance to you and your relationship with others. To think deeply of those patterns that continue to hold you in captivity and surrender them. Hand them over to God. Invite God's presence into your life to take those patterns from you so that you can live a healthy, wholesome life. And so, what about the thoughts and the prayers? I say stop settling for thoughts and prayers. I don't mean stop thinking. I don't mean stop praying. But I invite us to think deeply about our neighbor's pain. To pray fervently for God's kingdom to come on earth as it is in heaven. Right here, on these streets, in this building, and in the lives of the people of this community. But we should not stop there. Let our thoughts become discernment. Wisdom about how we can participate in God's new creation right where we are. Let our prayers become practices, habits that form into someone who chooses justice even when it costs us something. Let our faith become action. Specific action, concrete action, persistent action. Notice your patterns. Notice the patterns that you have. And name your fears. And in God's power, in the power of God's Spirit, that we choose differently. We look at the kids on the block, not because they are ours, but because they belong to us. And we share what we have with those who don't have. And we speak up when we see injustice, when it's easier for us to stay quiet. And we show up for our neighbors even when we're tired. And we choose life even when death feels closer. And we practice that radical table of fellowship, sitting down with people that you've been taught to fear, people you've been taught to hate, because in God's new creation, the wolf and the lamb rarely do eat together. Isaiah says, "Be glad and rejoice forever in what I'm creating." Friends, this isn't naive. This isn't pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is defiant hope in the face of despair. This is a choice to align ourselves with God's creative work rather than with the dying patterns of the old world. This is resurrection faith that says death doesn't say the last word. Not in our bodies, not in our neighborhoods, not in our future, not in our culture. That God is not offering us thoughts and prayers, but God is offering us participation in the most ambitious renovation project in history, the creation of new heavens and a new earth. And that renovation project, it starts right here. It starts right here on this corner, on 228 David Street, Syracuse, on this block, in this neighborhood, and the rest of the city, where the rest of the city has written us off, but God has never written us off. The invitation is extended to each of us. So will you join in the work? Will you live beyond the thoughts and prayers? Will you join in the work, in the recreation, in the new creation that God is offering to all of God's people? Will you join in that work? As you allow the Spirit of God to transform you from the inside out. As you ask God to heal you of all your hurts and pain and brokenness from within. That you may walk a new path. You may live a new life. And you may be part of the new thing that God is already doing. So in the name of the God who creates, the Christ who transforms, and the Spirit who empowers, may it be so for each of us, as we ask God to heal us and set us free, that we can live whole lives and be a part of this new thing that God is doing. Amen.